questions? All right, is there anybody here who wants to get on the first Q&A session? Robbie? Yeah. Robbie Hicks. Anyone else? No? Okay. All right, could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried, thank you. All right, we have public council minutes from May 26, 2025. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
Mayor, there were a couple of things that I noted when I was
Could
reviewing.
I get a motion to adopt first? please?
Oh,
So
sorry.
Moved,
Second.
seconded. Any errors or omissions?
All right. So at 7 a.m. this morning, I was emailing Kim. I did notice a couple of things to update. The first one being Resolution 143-2024. Councillor Pollard moved and seconded the motion to adopt the agenda at the last meeting. I was named in it and I didn't participate in the moving or the seconding, so just that one.
Of the agenda?
Yeah,
There's no conflict when it comes to the agenda.
it wasn't a conflict. It's a note of a correction in the meeting minutes.
Okay.
There were 3. There's an email on it. We discussed that we would
Oh, that's
address it.
fair. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant for the motion to adopt the agenda that, you weren't here for that?
No, the minutes in the package
Yeah.
noted that I moved it or seconded it, and I did not.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so it was just a small
Fair enough.
correction,
Okay.
that's all. So just a note of that one. Resolution 156-2024, there was no motion to defer voted on. I declared a conflict and did not vote to defer. So I just wanted to double check and make sure, and I did that this morning. So we didn't vote because we understood at the time that we didn't have quorum. So just a note on that one.
Yep.
And I didn't put the resolution in for the last one, Kim, my apologies.
That's okay.
But I did declare a conflict on the deferral of the code of conduct, and I didn't vote. I declared a conflict, and I did not vote on the deferral. There wasn't a vote. Again, we didn't know that we had enough to vote, so so it was pushed to the next meeting. But the meeting minutes had noted that there was a vote, and that we had voted in it, and that didn't happen. So I just wanted to make sure that it reflected properly in the updated package.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Perfect.
good.
Thank you.
Any others? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Conflict of interest, those sheets is out there. Just one thing on it for Spray Lane. And as always, if there's an issue that you're in a conflict, raise it at the time when it comes up. Thank you. Proclamations and presentations, there are none. Q&A, Robbie. And hopefully that microphone is going to turn on.
You have to hit the top button.
One to the right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
As I think all of you know, we had our East Coast Trail fundraiser on Saturday.
Did?
It went really, really well. The Common was a perfect place for it. And I have to commend the council, the staff. I mean, everything was, the staff at the Common were so helpful. It was a great event. And we really appreciate what the town of Torbay did to host it. I do have some figures. They're not final, but just to let you know that in pledges earned, $100,868. Then there was this 50-50 draw, and out of that was $68,635. So half of that went to the East Coast Trail Association. So that's a total of $135,185.50. There were 3 Torbay teams, the Torbay Coyotes, the Pathfinders, which is our staff and council members, and, and the Torbay 50 Plus Active Group. And between the 3 of us, we contributed to date. Now, there's more money still coming into the Torbay Coyotes, but $18,943.16. I'm not sure where the 16 cents came from. So I do have a quick question. The $500 that the town of Torbay usually gives, did that go into the
Did.
Pathfinders?
It did. yeah.
Okay, all right. The reason I ask is because whether I count it or not, it depends. But looking at the total from the 3 teams, we contributed close to 19% of all the money that was raised for that fundraiser, just the Torbay teams.
And that is awesome.
It is awesome, yeah.
And it's, and to your point, I did get an email this evening from the East Coast
Did you?
Trail,
Good.
and they had nothing but good to say about
Yep.
the town of Torbay. And I think that we kind of set the bar about how to host this thing.
Oh, you have, yeah, you really have. Anyway, so thank you all very much for your help, your participation. Rhonda, I hope you recover. Thanks again.
All right, thank you very much. All right.
Craig, down here.
Yeah, sure. Can you get your name, please, and? Melody King, did you want to come up? I can add her on there.
It's taken a lot for me to speak. I'm typically a bit shyer.
That's okay, we're all friends here.
I've sent a few emails regarding Amendment 17 and development of Forest Landing in particular. You've probably seen my name on a few emails. We had about 100, I sent out about 135 people signed that they were kind of against it for Forest Landing and rural large lots. So I just for you guys to keep it in mind when you guys are making some major decisions tonight. That's it. I don't really want to harp on it. It's a bit disappointing. A lot of people bought to be in that area for the large lots, the space, you know, a certain thing that we were told upon purchasing. So it would be a sin for it just to start turning into something completely different. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Mayor's report, I just got a couple of things. First, I'm gonna do the birthdays for June. Julia Schwartz on the 25th, Leon Harris on the 26th, and Jason Slade on the 28th. Happy birthday to all of you. I hope you have a great birthday and safe one. The other thing I'm going to talk about briefly is I just want to say thank you to Minister Thompson for meeting with myself and Sandy and Rhonda in Ottawa last week when we were up there for FCM. We did get an opportunity to go meet her at her office on Parliament Hill and talk to her about our water funding and about where we need to go with that. And I think that I'm pretty sure our message was clear that we're going to need some more funding. And of course, there was a lot of more discussion around all of that, but that was the basic crux of it, eh, Sandy? And, you know, she's been very helpful for us in this going forward. And she did advise us that our next step is to meet with the Infrastructure Canada and Transport Canada. And we're already in the works with...
Well, we're meeting with the CHIF folks now tomorrow,
Right.
and then we'll arrange the meeting subsequent to that.
And see where we can go. One thing that she did advise, it's important to get that started as soon as possible. So we can take from that whatever we will, but I still thank her for meeting with us. It's not easy to get a meeting, and I know we do have another one coming up with her on the 27th in here. Is it, we're having it in town for Bay, or we're having it at her office?
I'm not sure.
Or is it a Zoom? We'll figure it out. But I know that she did commit to meeting us on that date as well. One other thing I'd like to mention, and I want to thank Carrie, I did have the opportunity, and I thank FCM for this, I was invited to speak and present at the Municipal Den at FCM, and our topic was our rainbow registration, being a rainbow registered community. And I had a lot of positive feedback on that. And Carrie, no offense to your slides, they were awesome, but I really rushed through the description of them because I wanted to try and save a couple of minutes. I had 5 minutes, and I wanted to save a couple of minutes for the unscripted mayor, which people seem to like a little better than the scripted one. And at that point, I did get the opportunity to kind of expand a little bit on how important that is, and you know, that Torbay is a safe place for everyone. And when people are looking around the country through this, and I hope I don't fool it up, LGBTQI plus community, when they're looking for jobs, they're looking for places to live, they're looking for tourism opportunities to go on holiday, they actually look these things up, and they go to places where they know that the community is going to be welcoming. When they're looking for a job, businesses that are registered, that are going to be an opportunity for them to work, and you know, just the tourism potential in general. And I think that you know, it went over well, and thank you for doing that up for me. And they asked me, well, how did you come to know? I said, well, I really didn't know anything about it. Our economic development officer came to me and said he was thinking about doing it. I said, yes, boy, go ahead. And that's kind of where we're through. And a lot of work went into that. And I think that the most important aspect of that was we didn't really have to change anything. So that was kind of important for me to realize, and I think for council, that the policies and practices that we already had in place met the stringent requirements of this Chamber of Commerce and allowed us to get that recognition. So hopefully we're going to be the first. We are the first.
We are the first.
We're going to be the first of many more municipalities that adopt that approach, and see where it goes from there. But I just wanted to say it was a good opportunity to be able to do that at FCM and to tell people in the other parts of the country what it is that we're doing down here in Torbay. So, all right, citizens rising. Anything?
Just the regular question on the water, and I think staff is meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, we're meeting with the CHIF folks tomorrow to begin the process of signing the agreement.
Okay, so that's running down through the agreement and all the ins and outs, or?
Yep, yeah, we have a list of questions that we're going to be, myself and several of the staff are going to be attending that meeting to make sure that we have everything that's necessary.
Okay, look forward to seeing what that comes back with. One other thing, I think the last council meeting I inquired about the definition of conflict of interest and some further research around it. I don't know if it got back to you or not.
No, it didn't, sorry.
It actually centered around minor softball.
Okay.
And a request that has yet to be answered to them. And there's a number of us here who claiming conflict, but I personally don't think that people are. Listen, everyone's entitled to say they are or they aren't. I'm not against that. I think that it's sometimes we put the conflict of interest out there when it's not really what the total intention was. I just like some clarification, official clarification on it in terms of what that interpretation is. When you got children or grandchildren or whatever in Tory minor or any minor for that matter, and a contribution from the town, I don't see how that benefits any one particular person.
No,
It's
and-
more of one of those in common conversations.
Yeah, and I can speak to that for a minute if you want.
Right,
Yeah.
before you do, that's part of the larger cohort, right?
Yeah, well, it could vary, it could be. But the conflict of interest legislation obviously was changed when the Municipal Code of Conduct, or Municipal Conduct Act came into force. It doesn't only talk about personal interests, it also talks about personal relationships. And that's what we have to bear in mind here. So the conflict of interest legislation states that if you have a personal interest with someone that would adversely affect or prevent you from making an impartial decision, then that would be considered a conflict. So if you have a son or a daughter or a grandson, you obviously have a personal relationship with that person. And if you think that that's going to prevent you from making an impartial decision that relates to that, then that would be considered a conflict. So that's individually, you all have to make that decision to determine whether you are in a conflict yourselves. It's not for anyone else to indicate whether you are or not. But one thing I will say, and I've always said this, Section 6, subsection 5 of the Municipal Conduct Act does allow a councillor to ask their fellow councillors if they are in a conflict of interest. And when you do that, then the decision's made, and that councillor is fully protected. Right, so that's the other option for you to, if you're unclear and unsure, and if a decision is made with respect to the topic that you've talked about, Councillor Pollard, then you don't have to come back each time. I mean, once council has made that decision, then you can stick with that decision on a go-forward basis.
Can I ask a question on that? Go ahead, Kim.
On that note, I can wait until we get to the rec committee. I want to put me personally, forward to the table here
Yeah.
to decide. I have a grandson in minor. I'm also a softball player. I think I'll be capable. I did say that I would be in conflict, but I'm uncomfortable with that because there's discussions that needs to be. I'm on the committee,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's fair to the groups because I know I can do an impartial discussion and be able to speak to some things. So either do it now or when it comes to the rec, I'm going to put conflict of interest for me for those two things or anything that involves the sports field in there out to everyone and let council decide how you feel.
Yeah.
I've given my part to it and
And that's an important point, because if you make the decision that you're not in conflict and someone files a complaint and that complaint eventually determines that you were in conflict,
Yeah.
you could lose your seat.
yeah.
Whereas if you ask council and council decides that you're not in conflict, but a subsequent investigation determines you were, you would not lose your seat because it wasn't you who made the decision.
And
Right, so that's the difference.
I wasn't quite sure on that part of it. So I'm more comfortable having the table decide whether I'm going to be in conflict or not, knowing that I feel comfortable I can,
Yeah. And when we get to that point,
Yeah.
then you can ask that question.
okay.
Okay, Margaret? I'll start you.
I'm looking at the legislation here now, and it says 6.1, where a counselor knows or ought reasonably to know that the counselor has a conflict of interest in a matter before council, the council shall, where present, declare the conflict of interest before any consideration or discussion on the matter. Disclose the general nature of the conflict of interest, refrain from participating in any discussions relating to the matter, refrain from voting on any question, decision, recommendation, or other actions to be taken related to the matter, leave the room in which the meeting is held for the duration of consideration of the matter. My concern with the explanation is I could know that there's gonna be a decision, and if we're talking softball, as the example Councillor Pollard raised, my son is in that program. There's a financial impact to me if there is money provided or not, because it could impact the cost to participate. My daughter is also involved as well. I am the primary parent who is paying a percentage of that.
Right.
So for me personally, I ought to know what the conflict is. From my understanding, because there's a financial impact,
Yep.
I'm declaring a conflict.
Right, and,
However,
yeah, go ahead.
potential financial impact. However, do I understand here tonight that even if I know that because it says here reasonably ought to know, that I know that there's could potential financial impact, perceived or actual,
Yep.
that if I say I'm in a conflict and council hasn't decided that I am or not, then I'm vulnerable to potentially losing my seat?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, that's why I wanted to get
No,
clarified.
and let me clarify.
Thank you.
The explanation under section 6.5 that gives you the option of asking is that it's an option. If you feel you're in a conflict, you should declare the conflict. You wouldn't need to ask. The only reason you would ask your fellow councillors whether you're in a conflict or not is if you're not sure. But if you feel that you are in a conflict, your obligation is to declare it. Yeah.
So in that instance, because my instance is not different from Rhonda's in
Yeah.
that, I have a family member who's participating in this.
Right?
I'm confident that there's a potential financial implication.
That's your decision, your own decision.
So, but am I protected under that? Or do I have to ask council? the
No,
question?
if you declare the conflict, you're fine. If
Okay,
you declare the conflict, you leave your seat, then you're not participating. What I'm saying is you're protected if you ask and council decides you're not, and then you go ahead and participate. That is when you are protected. But if you don't ask and you make the decision, I'm in a conflict of interest here, I'm declaring it, then you're fine.
so if I state I'm in a conflict of interest because of,
Yep. You leave the
Potential
table and
financial-
you don't participate,
And you don't
you're
vote.
fine.
okay,
Yeah.
just clarifying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and to that point, the piece you read, and we're gonna make sure that we implement this now. New in the new act is that a counselor actually has to get up from their seat if they're in a conflict. They don't have to leave the room, they can sit where the public would normally sit. If we were in a committee of the whole and you were in a conflict, you'd have to get up and go, if it was a privileged meeting. If it was a committee meeting, you'd have to go sit
Where the
in the
public would
space
sit.
where the public would normally sit. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that, because we not necessarily have been doing that, but it is the way that it's supposed to be done.
Two things on that, if I can just still for further clarification, because I still think that it's gone way beyond what the legislation had originally intended, but I mean, that's the way legislation gets sometimes too. And it's still only my interpretation. The flip side of that, I suppose, if a councillor thinks they're in conflict and decides to step out, that doesn't excuse that person from not being held in conflict for stepping out as well, or not voting and vacating the seat, right? Number one. Number two is you talk about relationships. How does friendship involve in someone voting on amendments for, I'll say area level when it comes forward, for instance? How does that not enter into the same realm of conflicts?
And the legislation doesn't clarify that. The legislation leaves it to your individual discretion as to whether you believe that you have a personal relationship that impairs your ability to make an impartial decision. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very difficult to
Yeah.
dispute or to prove after the fact, I would imagine. Right, any other questions around that, or any business arising? Sorry, that's the section we're in.
So just to clarify, the section 6.5 says where the counselor is uncertain,
Right.
is where you ask.
That's what I said, yeah.
But if you know that you reasonably ought to know.
You wouldn't even get to section 6.5.
Got it.
You declare it 6.1.
Okay, thank you.
That's when you would declare, yeah.
Just wanted to double check and make
Yeah.
sure. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay. Correspondence. We have a letter here from a minister introduction letter. Paul Pike, Minister of Municipal Affairs, what is it named now?
Engagement.
It's municipal affairs and community engagement.
Municipal Affairs and Community Engagement. Every time we has a cabinet
Mace.
shuffle.
Is the
Mace.
short.
Oh my
That's
God.
what they
Every
refer
time we
to
has
the
a cabinet
weekend.
shuffle, we get some new names. All right, that's their response from Torbay, City of St. John's. This is in response to those, the comments that we made in the response to the letter that we sent regarding the rezoning that they were doing. M&L info note for May 28th. June is Seniors Month.
I'm surprised we didn't have a proclamation on that.
Didn't have one.
We have in the past.
Usually,
I look forward.
usually those groups send those forward, and I was talking to Kim actually about this a little while ago. Some of the ones that we normally have, and if people forget to send them in, maybe we need to just make a list of the ones that we normally do and go ahead and
We
do
usually
them.
make,
Yeah.
I make a point of saying something about this for Seniors Month, and I was surprised there was nothing there.
I only saw this through the media release. Other than that, I didn't get any type of correspondence except for the media release from
And we have something for Seniors Month.
Premier Hogan.
We
So I
didn't.
was a bit surprised as well, that's why. I
Not
thought it was
recognizing it.
important to include it.
Okay, and registration is now open for the next UMC meeting, is in Port Basque, August 22nd and 23rd. So for consideration for our UMC rep. Alrighty. Committees of Council. Planning, Land Use Development, Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. We went down through the response from City of St. John's and that as well, did we, just that time?
Ken, if you want,
My mind somewhere else?
go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I take it of interest that they had said that they're do be maxed out, and I did read the two reports, actually, the 2017 and 2024 update, or 2023 update, whatever it was. And it does look like the City of St. John's is going to be maxed out at some point in time in the near future as well, but it didn't preclude them from allowing folks who exist on the present system to continue to develop. It just shut us out because we weren't currently on the existing system, which is kind of a two-sided answer. I just want to put my comment on that because you know, our residents are just as important as anybody else in the region, so. One second, your worship, we'll go to the 14% size here. Yes, don't be talking. Item number 1 is Development Regulations Amendment number 17, 2025, Secondary Suites In-Law Suite Amendment. And there has been a fair bit of discussion on this, both at committee of the whole, outside, residential concerns, residential issues brought forward. So the committee decided to bring this back. We did have some further discussion on it, and we recognize that the freedom to put the secondary, I guess, suites throughout the town was something that everybody wasn't in favor of, so we adopted that a little bit differently to make it a discretionary use in the RLL land use zone. It's, you have to read the full attachment, and once I read the motion, I'll let Julia speak to exactly what is included in the amendment so everybody knows, so we can vote on it from a motion perspective. So motion to adopt Torbay Development Regulations, Amendment number 17, 2025, secondary / in-law suite amendment in accordance with the requirements of the Urban and Rural Planning Act 2000 as tabled. So moved. So as I said, because...
Got a seconder?
Sorry.
Second.
Seconded. Go ahead.
So as I said, because the amendments there in depth, it's hard to pick through all the individual parts, but unless you actually read it all, I think the crux of it was the secondary suites allowed throughout the town, with the exception of the RLL zone, which will be discretionary use. And we have a fair number of RLL zones that are yet to be developed as well. So, anybody else want to speak to that? Is fine.
Okay. Right.
Councillor Pollard is right. There has been considerable discussion and considerable amount of public feedback about this issue. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my question is this is directly related to the $2 million that we got for the housing initiative, correct?
Yes, loosely.
It is, and so from my perspective, that $2 million is there for developers that want to come in as an incentive to bring this into our community. The people who purchase the RLL lots, a lot of them have contacted me, similar to what Melody shared today. These people purchase their homes being told, you cannot put an in-law suite, you cannot put in a secondary suite. This is what you're buying when you come into this community. It's going to be an RLL neighborhood. You are going to have, these things in place. Concerns have been raised at this table around this include concerns about access to get in and out of some of these developments, the width of the road, the infrastructure not meeting those capabilities, previous plans that the town had brought forward for development in some of these areas, not having some of those exit routes and concerns. Whereas Steady Belt, especially in the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee, dealing with complaints around speeding and pedestrian safety in spaces like this. So, listening to the residents, understanding the challenges that they have here, I don't think that this is something that's supporting the residents. I don't feel comfortable with it, and I'm absolutely going to vote against it tonight. I think that, the town is undertaking the municipal planning work. It's important, but I think we need to be sure that when people purchase a home and they move into a neighborhood, they know what to expect. There's an awful lot of land to develop, and we have opportunity to develop this town responsibly. And at this point, I don't think I can support this as it is brought forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll say, I guess, looking at this from where we went with having just a blanket and the fact that we're having the apartments, secondary apartments, as a discretion throughout the whole area. It's no different than what it is. We already have some, what we refer to as in-law. Well, it may not be the exact definition of an in-law apartment, that's what we call them, that they're already approved in these areas. And I also know for myself, talking to some residents, that they are
they have in-law, they would like to have to make them actual legal in-laws, where there are some, and depending on who you talk to, and we all know that there are some apartments and that are not registered with the town at this point in time, that they do exist. So I think the fact that we're making them a discretionary notice and that we're looking at in-law suite apartments, I'll be in favor of this. We've come a long way from what the intent was when we done it, and I think that we've looked at this and we've kind of come to an agreement that will meet everybody's needs.
Your comment?
If I may.
Go ahead.
I agree with the Deputy Mayor in the sense that this is, yes, I'll use the same words, come a long way since the original and a blanket draft that was given initially. The fact that the RLL is specified in this now and is discretionary concerning in-laws, if I'm correct in thinking that it's the same as really what it is now. So that hasn't changed at all for RLL, right? So in saying that, I am in agreement because I'm comfortable with the fact that it still has to come back to council for discretionary approval, which I'll say once again, to me is just exactly the same as what it is now. So I'm fine with this correction made to this and the way it's reading there now.
Can I just ask, sorry, because just for clarification, so we're all make sure we're on the same page, can Julia just explain the secondary versus in-law, because I think Councillor Manning may have not mixed them up, but in-law suites were discretionary use, secondary apartments were not secondary use, but it's really hard to monitor in-law versus secondary apartments, and secondary apartments would have a requirement for proper setup in terms of firewalls and things of that nature when a house is being designed, rather an in-law suite can be exactly like a secondary apartment, but not have all the necessary safety precautions built into it as well. But that's not where I'm going. We're saying that in terms of where RLL is now, in terms of in-law suites are secondary, or not secondary, are discretionary use. Secondary apartments were not in the RLL zone. So this amendment looks at putting secondary apartments in the RLL zone as discretionary use. And Julie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that statement, please.
No, you're correct. So everybody's correct in a sense that right now a secondary suite or subsidiary apartment is not listed either as discretionary or permitted in that zone, which means it's not permitted. However, in-law suites were listed as discretionary uses, and there is a lack of clarity in the definition between those two uses. So there were files, as the Deputy Mayor mentioned, that were processed as discretionary uses, and the intent behind the amendment here now is also to distinguish clearly between the two, which really is that in-law suites are not separate dwelling units. They form part of the same dwelling units. They have an interconnecting door. And as we're now proposing, it's basically intended for an in-law or relative to live with the family, but they would share a kitchen. So an in-law suite does not have a kitchen. So when you have a fully independent dwelling unit and you're actually renting it out to separately as an apartment, there's, as you say, fire rating requirements, and the units cannot be interconnected, there's all kinds of electrical wiring requirements, etc. So we're trying to also clarify the language in around those two uses. But yes, so the secondary suite use really was not permitted at all, except some people were interpreting the in-law suite as a secondary suite. So it would be an addition, and it would be officially moving secondary suites, or as we up to now call them, subsidiary apartments, to move them into the list of discretionary uses. So each individual file will have to go through the discretionary use process and a discretionary decision by council. So they're not permitted outright. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Can I speak again?
Pardon?
Can I speak again?
I just should add, like, they're discretionary only in the RL zone, right? Like the other ones, they would stay permitted.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll just have a quick comment here. And I think that we did hear what the residents were saying about having these things permitted everywhere. And came to a compromise to have a discretion, so that way everybody in the neighborhood knows when somebody wants to put in a subsidiary apartment, whether it's gonna be a in-law suite or a in-law suite with a kitchen that would be a subsidiary apartment, which I suspect is what a lot of them are anyway. And it will give us greater control to make sure that people are building the correct things in our neighborhoods. So if someone puts in a in-law suite now through permit, and they don't do the proper wiring, they don't do the proper fire breaks, the fire whatever, there's a hazard there. There's a hazard to the entire neighborhood, to the entire community, really, if things are not done correctly. So I think this is it's a good compromise. I don't really see this as bending over backwards for the Housing Accelerator Fund, because I think those units that we're gonna build to qualify for that are gonna be in other areas of the town, particularly in the medium density areas, so I don't think it's a whole lot gonna change, to be honest. But it does give people the option to be able to build an apartment in their house for their kids or for their parents, so. Okay, back to you, sir.
Just having some people move their cars.
Oh.
Because our department dropped by, so it's nothing to do with the meeting or anything or.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Back to
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I got nothing further to say other than, we gave a lot of thought to this overall when we bring it forward, and it is a council decision, not a committee decision. The committee's bringing forward the final change to it so that it gets settled one way or the other. Personally, I think that if indeed no one wants to have an apartment there, it goes to discretionary use, it gets refused anyway. So it's still the same. There are still a lot of areas in town that are yet to be developed with the RLL designation, and we haven't addressed the change to that moving forward really, but we may do it in the town plan, but that's something in the future. The residents who currently exist in RLL zones were, I guess, under the impression that no apartments were allowed to go in there. We do have some requests from people who wanted to put secondary in-law suites in there and secondary apartments in, and we certainly, put that out for discretionary use and allow it where there's no, I guess, pushback from residents. And we had some people actually say, or at least one person actually say that they actually approved one that was across the street from them or something as well, who was against the RLL amendment. So I think it happens to be a medium that will protect the existing residents and allow for recognition that, circumstances change over time. Families change, might be downsizing, might be need to move family members in. And sometimes larger lots might be more amenable to that as well as opposed to smaller lots. So that's all I have to say for it.
Okay, all right, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Next one is in relation to a single dwelling on 21 Spray Lane. And it's zoned town center at the present time with a portion of conservation associated with it. We reviewed it as a committee and we didn't see any particular issue with that piece of property, as all the ones closest to it are well in town center and also have a single dwelling attached, or not attached, but on the property. So motion to initially approve application 2025-017 for the construction of a single dwelling at 21 Spray Lane in accordance with regulations 33 and 90 of the Torbay Development Regulations, 2015-2025 pertaining to discretionary uses subject to conditions outlined in a tax background report and standard conditions for home construction in the town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Christian.
Okay.
Is this a service lot?
No.
Okay.
Not serviced, is it, Julia?
I meant to ask that, I forgot. Thank you. Okay, nope, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the last one is the motion to accept 2025 permit listings for the week ending May 21st, 2025 as tabled. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And that ends my report at the present time,
All
Your
right.
Worship.
Thank you. Any questions on anything else in the report?
If I could, there was quite a bit of conversation this week about the dump trucks on Pauline Line. I was working from home one day last week, and the volume and the speed of those dump trucks were something else. I actually sent a note to the director to ask her for an update about what was happening, but also contacted the RMC to ask that they come down and patrol that street. There are very narrow sides on that road since it's been redone, and I would ask maybe if we can, contact the companies that we are able to within the town's ability to ask that they observe their speed and make sure that it's within the set speed limit. I know in our neighborhood in particular, there's some really small, cute kids, and when the trucks are coming down over the hill, they're accelerating, and there's a very serious safety concern there. So I just wanted to note that. Thank the director for the update and the information that she provided, but also wanted to note that and to ask if we could maybe send some correspondence to those businesses and just ask that they, and let them know. I mean, when I called the RNC, the gentleman said to me, he said, well, did you contact the town? And I said, sir, I'm a town councillor. I have already sent a note to the director, but we direct people when they're speeding in the community to you. That's what we're told to do because of the reporting, then where to send your people when things are going on. So I'm following the direction of the town, and he said, not a problem, Miss Appleby, we'll get a car down there.
And-
So just wanted to reference that.
And you did, because when I was coming over here at 4:30, when I was going up Ballymun, I passed two coming in Ballymun.
Yeah, and
so-
I saw one there yesterday as well, so I just want to thank the RNC for that, but also note, I mean, the kids will be out of school in a couple of weeks. It's really important to be aware of that and try to keep people safe. Thank you.
Just on the same vein, Your Worship, maybe if we can get a heads up from the quarry obviously is, and we've all, I think for the majority of us, disagreed with the quarry being there at this point in the life of the town. If any future movement of trucks or things in the area, maybe we give them a heads up that it's gonna happen, because I think that it just happened and we're gonna react to it rather than know in advance, and then maybe the people know, give them a heads up that there will be something moving that day, and then we'll know what exactly is going on from point A to point B, because there's always questions in terms of what's being dumped there and where it's coming from and how much and how long and things of that nature. So maybe we can get ahead of that rather than react to it. We'll probably be better served as well. Thank you.
Maybe we can reach out to the owner and ask him, does he have a schedule of when he's gonna be working in there or whatever they're doing?
Yeah. Julie, if you could get me that information, we'll connect on
If we
that.
could just follow up on that as well, what's being dumped, if we could find out what it is and the materials and have someone there to check it, because we've been through this with,
Yeah, that was done.
okay, I just wanna make sure that that's
Jason was
happening.
over there yesterday.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's been done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, quick question on process. The committee of the whole, it says here there are no motions. I just had a look at the act, and again, what we're allowed to discuss at committee of the whole and what we're not. My understanding is that there was a discussion around changing the organizational structure of the community.
That, those discussions happened in a privileged session of council.
Yeah.
And they were valid to have in a privileged session of council. That's why there's no report, so
So it
we're not gonna
says,
discuss them here tonight.
right, but it says no motions, so
There was-
was there a decision?
There was no motions, there was no decisions.
So is council making decisions without motions?
there was operational,
We shouldn't be discussing
yeah, we should
privilege,
we can
content
discuss
privilege
it.
meetings
Just
in a public
checking
forum.
to make
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Admin and HR. Deputy Mayor.
We had our meeting on June 3rd. Councillor Manning, himself, and the Chief of Human Resources, and our CAO, Sandy. I'm just going to go down over this, touch on the highlights. I'm going down to museum educator, part-time. Caitlin Banks has accepted the role of museum educator on a part-time position with the History House and Museum. The next one is Christopher Ryan has accepted the role of museum interpreter for the upcoming summer months at the History House and Museum. And for the infrastructure and recreation worker one, the Ali Dodd has accepted the position of infrastructure and recreation worker one for the summer. So I'd like everybody to welcome all these new employees and wish them all the best for their summer months or for the duration of their work with us. Municipal Code of Conduct. This was a May 2020.
Before we start here, I have to declare a conflict of interest.
Okay.
I was informed by the gentleman who took care of this, the gentleman who conducted the investigation noted in an email to me on June 1st, 2023, that he had that the complainant had identified you as the respondent in the investigation. So that puts me in a conflict. Point of order on that, Mayor. There is a member of council who made the complaint, and there are 3 members of council, according to the documented ATIP information that I received in 2025. I'm not sure if there's a conflict of interest. That may be concern there, so just want to raise that to ask the question of how we proceed. Thank you.
So, I wasn't at the last meeting, and I was surprised that anybody would have been in conflict on this one. I wasn't made privy to whatever it is that investigator had told you, but I did share with all of council the letter that I had sent, in which it was, and the report. And it was a general council issues that I had outlined, and it wasn't directed at any one person. It was a overall general outstanding issues amongst council that we had to get looked at, and I forwarded that on to the then CAO, and she took it away and went away with it. But from what I had sent out to the rest of the council, so that they're all aware of exactly what it is that we're talking about, I didn't see any reason anybody would be in a conflict. To your point, I'm not party to any discussion that you might have had with the investigator. I had one, I guess everybody had one, and there was nothing in his report that indicated any one person was subject to this report, that it was a general synopsis of the items that I had listed in that original email. That's kind of my understanding of it. Am I right in there?
Yeah, Joe, just to clarify, Councillor Rapley, you are declaring a conflict?
I am declaring a conflict because I was advised by the lawyer who
Right.
undertook this investigation in an email that he reached out to me on, saying the complainant has identified you as a respondent for the investigation.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I checked that with you between
Yes.
the last meeting and this one, and my understanding from
Right.
your email was that I was right to declare that
So
conflict.
you're declaring the conflict?
So I'm declaring the conflict, but I'm just asking the question, the point of
Right.
order of
So
the chair.
with respect to the others that are named, that would be up to them individually, whether they feel they're in a conflict or not. Or they can ask the fellow councillors under section 6.5 that we talked earlier about.
So in the point of order, isn't the mayor supposed to rule on
Right,
procedure.
I just did. Actually, prior to that I don't feel anybody is in a conflict, including you. And from the information that I had shared with all the council. So that's kind of where I'm to, but if you declare a conflict, I'm not gonna argue with you about it. You're declaring a conflict, you can declare a conflict.
Well, I'm declaring a conflict based on the
Okay.
communication from the lawyer, and.
Right, and nobody else can dispute that because none of us are party to it, only you.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear that I'll declare that conflict,
Yep.
and the rest of it, I'll leave it to council to make a decision.
Yeah, so your only other move now would be either to sit in the gallery or leave the room. That would be your choice.
Yeah, sure. I'll second.
Okay, so I will ask that question. Does anybody else feel that they're in a conflict? Okay. I don't either. Okay.
I'm just looking at this, and I don't even know how this came up, but this motion, as I think Councillor Pollard said at the last meeting, due to figuring we didn't have enough to move forward, this is a report that was done back in May, completed in...
So before we speak to it, can you do the motion?
I was just given the history on where it came
Yeah,
from.
So do the motion first.
Whatever. Okay, motion be it resolved that in accordance with the municipal code of conduct, that the town of Torbay, Torbay Town Council uphold the municipal code of conduct investigation report completed and submitted by an external investigator, and be it further resolved that the complaint is submitted, has been fully dismissed, and that no further actions will be required on the part of the Torbay Town Council to resolve the matter at hand. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, now you go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to emphasize the fact that this code of conduct investigation took place in May of 2023. And with the changes with the new legislation, I guess it was an oversight at the time that we had to bring this to the table for a motion. Prior to that, we didn't have to, it wasn't required. So that's the reason. So somewhere along the way, this came up and was identified that, you know, and I guess in just listening to the discussions that took place, it's hard to know if everybody was in this or what way it was involved, who would be in conflict and who wouldn't. So it's hard if you got these to bring forward for a motion. So I just wanted to put that in there. So
Okay. Any other comment?
Just goes to show the whole question around conflict of interest is nothing but a quagmire and a can of worms overall.
Agree.
Bottom
Yeah.
line to it. I mean, and whoever invented the legislation needs to go back to rewriting law or something.
And I think to Deputy Mayor's point, Councillor Bang, did you have a comment? that you
No,
wanted to
no,
make?
I'm agreeing with everyone.
I think
Got it all
to
said.
Deputy Mayor's point of why this is coming forward now, it was discovered that it was not dealt with a motion of council. And so to correct that, we are dealing with it with a motion of council. And that's basically
And I,
the crux of it. I mean, this thing has been reported in the Northeast Avon Times 2 years ago.
Yes.
So there's nothing new here.
but I'm also going to say at this point in time that when this new policy came into effect and when it was, you know, the code of conduct and harassment and bullying and whatever else, it was supposed to be considered confidential, because who is going to come forward with these? It was supposed to be in a safe place where people could come in if they felt any of this was taking place. Then all of a sudden, it's now become, you know, in the Northeast Avalon Times, and anybody who wants access to any of these reports can come in and get it. Because when I even read some of that in the Times, I'm thinking, well, that was more than probably that I read or I could remember at the time. So it throws, you know, a monkey wrench into the whole way that this was supposed to be done and was supposed to be there for anybody who wanted to have an investigation and something done. So with that, I rest my case.
Well, one good thing is we haven't had any more since this one, so that's 2 years now.
Yeah.
Going
Now,
good.
Yep,
All right.
exactly. That's the good
All in
news.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. No, you're good. There was only one.
The pay
So we could
leave
just note-
authorized automation project, that's still ongoing. That's, if anybody's got any questions, that's the highlights, my report.
Okay, thank you.
Kim, you just noted that Councillor Appleby is back. Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right. Corporate Services, Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll give some of the highlights of the report, then I'll get into the motions. Payroll process for the period May 22nd to June 4th, total $122,742.36. Checks processed for the period May 21st to June 3rd, $110,606.79. There are a number of items that the committee is still addressing: the restricted reserve fund policy, the security deposit policy are some of the larger ones at the present time, as well as obviously the ongoing collection of back taxes and things of that nature. Moved in motion, so the following invoices are being presented for approval. June 2025 Canada Life June group benefits in the amount of $14,486.35. CIBC Mellon May pension contribution $29,037.82. Gibbon Snow Architects Inc. building maintenance report on History House $10,092.86. Hickman Chev Cadillac Chevy 1-ton truck $75,850.55. Newfoundland Power Inc. for May group building in the amount of $18,833.55. Receiver General payroll remittance in the amount of $40,396.43. Big R Restaurant Best of Torbay awards from the meal $5,295.16, all totaling $193,992.72. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion number 2, but it says motion number 3, so, you know, it's only corporate services.
Good with the numbers.
Numbers, yeah. Anyway, sorry. Motion to approve request for architecture and engineering services. Committee recommends that we proceed with the approval of the request for architectural and engineering services for design and construction support at 2 Common Lane, Torbay, as outlined in GSA proposal 24005901 in the amount of $33,410 plus HST. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Just a quick question. The approval of this money, does that note that we're gonna proceed with the work to get the spec for the History House?
Yes.
That's what this is, right?
Yeah, it's the approval of money, but I just wanna make sure that the approval was considered as well, the approval to move forward with that action.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion number 4, which is motion number 3, is donation request from Grotto Flatrock. The committee recommends that we do not approve the donation request submitted by the Grotto Committee and Town Council in Flatrock. The request pertains to financial assistance for repairs for their grotto, which is currently facing challenges in obtaining government assistance and heritage registration at both provincial and federal levels. However, we suggest exploring alternative support options such as promoting their fundraiser through our town's communications channels. So moved.
Moved.
Sorry.
Second.
Seconded. Comments? I think this is pretty much in line with the same direction we followed when we had requests from the graveyard committees, right? For
It is.
this.
It's not that we wouldn't like to, it's just that it's an avenue we really can't open up and go down. We don't think as a committee anyway.
Okay, any other comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We didn't do that?
It's on his package.
Okay.
It is on his package.
Another motion here, committee recommends a donation in the amount of $1,000 budgeted from public relations, 541776550, Holy Trinity High School Achievement, $1,000, and $500 from recreation account, 54766540, $500, youth awards, community service awards, historical support for athlete of the year awards. So moved.
Hold
Sec.
on. Is this in the package?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I
It
didn't
is,
see it
just,
in the package.
it's there right underneath,
M.
L,
Page
under
2.
M.
It was deferred from last week. There was not a quorum to
Okay.
vote.
I'm in a conflict for that one as well. My daughter is graduating this year, and she is one of the kids that is going to be at the cap and gown, so I have to declare a conflict
so
for
we'll
that
note-
one.
we'll note that,
I will
yeah.
vacate my seat again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Once again, I honestly do not believe, sorry, I'm not saying that Trina is wrong walking away, I just don't think that's the intent of the conflict of interest regulations, I really don't.
Right, because these are for awards.
This is
That hasn't been
no
on-
different than voting on the budget.
Same day. Yeah. Anyway,
It is the legislation.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. You come back now. We're out.
Good exercise, isn't it?
Keep your exercise, yeah.
Steps in.
So ends the report, Your Worship.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now, whenever I declare a conflict of interest, I'm gonna open the door for a walk around. You can carry on without me.
Mayor, just a point on that.
Yeah.
There have been allegations of conflict of interest that have been made against me since I've sat at this table. There's actually a document right now that I understand that's in a appeal, that's for damages against the town, that names both you and I, that has to do with accusations of conflict of interest.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very careful to ensure that if there's any reasonable reason to think that there may be a conflict where I ought to walk away, I do that not because I enjoy getting my steps in, but because my duty to this municipality is to ensure that
Right.
I'm protecting it as best as I can.
Yep.
And I don't want to have taxpayers to be challenging or challenged and having to pay for those sorts of things. So
Fair
if
enough.
I could just make that point, to the best of my ability, I've read the legislation, and where it says where a counselor feels that they are, or they ought to think that they are,
Yep.
then I'm declaring it for that reason.
Oh,
My
yeah.
daughter is a graduate, she could be a recipient of one of these awards, I do not know, but from my perspective and understanding,
Yep.
I feel that there's potential for a conflict,
Yep.
so that's the reason
That's
why I
fair.
step away.
It's fair.
That's
There's
fair.
no mechanism to challenge that.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear for the public though, because I do
Yeah.
understand there's some frustration around conflict of interest. The intent here is not to
There-
escalate that, it's to be responsible as I serve the community in this
The
role.
frustration that I'm hearing from Councillor Pollard is around the legislation itself and
Yeah.
not around,
You.
Oh,
Move the time.
fair, I understand, I completely understand that's not directed
Yeah.
towards me.
Yeah.
I do understand that it's directed towards the provincial government who oversees and rates this legislation. I just want to be clear though, for the public record, why I declare the
Yep.
conflict and why I step away.
yep, fair enough.
Thank you.
You finished, sir?
I suppose.
I got a question on
Go
that.
ahead. Yep.
Normally in the package, we used to have a copy of the
Yes.
check register and the different payment of the invoices and what have you in there, check register. That hasn't been there for the last couple of
Is it check
Minute?
register or income and?
I,
Income expense report.
expense report, I guess.
I include all of those reports in my package. I'm not sure why they don't roll forward. We've had this issue in the past, Kim and I. It's something to do with iCompass, but all of those reports, including check register, accounts payable processed, all those reports are uploaded in the original package. By
Only the
somehow,
last few that they haven't been there.
by the time it makes its way to your package, they get dropped, the attachments get dropped. So again, I noticed that tonight as I was reviewing, but in all of my packages that I've submitted, all those details have been included.
Okay, there's a call to the help desk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. I've also noticed as well in the last few meetings that Councillor Pollard, it looks like you're the only one who's attending the committee meeting. I believe I'm the alternate. These meetings happen at 11 a.m., which is during my workday. If there's a need for a second member of council to participate, as I understand is common practice, please let me know that if I'm needed to set up a time outside of my work schedule, certainly happy to do that. But I didn't get any correspondence that said that there was a need for me to be participating as an alternate. So if there is a need, we just need to find a time outside of my workday to participate, and I'm more than happy to do so.
That's what.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now you're finished. All right, Economic Development, Tourism, History, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, we had our meeting on June 2nd. Councillor Tapper and Carrie, the Director of Economic Development Tourism. I'm not going down over this. It's a lot of it is an update from not even that, from the last meeting that we had. The History House, total number of visitors for the month of May was over 500. The key events there was with the Hall of Fame reception, as well as the annual Holy Trinity Art Show, and the new staff hires. I already touched on that. And they're working on the Mannion project, the deed of gift being finalized. I've got a couple of motions here regarding the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund agreement. Reference CHIFC-001015. Be it resolved that Council acknowledges that the Town of Torbay has the authority and capacity to enter into and execute the above referenced funding agreement with the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund program. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Question, can I get some clarification on this resolution for the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund? What is it? The link,
It's the $26.8 million that we got from the federal government.
To develop Great Barn.
is there any potential conflict for me there?
Nope.
No, not that I'm aware of.
There's a fish ladder that's in the
We don't,
agreement that Joanne brought forward.
we don't have an application from Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So there's no money in this from Department of Fisheries and Oceans. And this isn't a funding agreement. It's not an application to build yet.
But the minister that brought it forward is the Minister of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Can I ask the question of if I'm in conflict under
Sure.
Section
Section
6.5.
5? Yeah, 6.5, please.
Yeah,
Thank
go ahead.
you. So I
Who-
can put the motion. Yeah, I'm asking if I'm in a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Our MP is also the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans who's bringing this forward. And in the announcement, there was a fish ladder that was noted for the pond, which would eventually be something that DFO will be involved in.
Mm.
So I just want to ask the question before we vote on this one, if I'm in a conflict of interest.
Okay, so everybody's clear on what the question is?
Yep.
If Councillor Appleby is in a conflict of interest on this? All those in favor of her being in a conflict? Opposed?
Opposed?
Yeah.
You're opposing
Opposed.
it, so you're
Yeah.
basically, she's not in conflict.
Not-
None.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good?
Yes.
So moved. Carried.
So I'm not in a conflict.
No.
Okay, I just want to be sure.
And-
Only takes a second.
And that motion now will cover anything else that comes forward on this.
On this issue, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So we don't have to do it again for the second one. All right, okay, any other questions?
So there's a motion on the floor for
Yes, we have to vote on it, yeah.
yes.
So any other questions on this?
I just want to clarify that the capacity for us has been backed up by the bank, and that's where that comes from. Doesn't necessarily mean we're on the hook for it in terms of actual dollars from the town. It means that we do have the capability to go down the road in order for purposes of this agreement.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So before, and I guess I just want to ask this question to CAO before we vote. This will come back to council before you put your name on it.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, this is just a motion for us to,
Because I could see,
they will need this as part of our discussions tomorrow.
because I
So
could
this
see
is-
my name
And
having
that's
been on
the
too.
second,
Yeah.
second motion, by the way. So-
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Continue.
Okay, resolution number 2, signing authority. Be it resolved that council approves that Chief Administrative Officer Sandy Hounsell has official signing authority on behalf of the organization to sign the contribution agreement and/or subsequent claim and reporting documents. So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Comments?
I have a comment. Not necessarily in favor of the way this is worded. I think council and mayor and town clerk should sign the agreement, sign on behalf of the organization. I think that's the way that most things are done. No slate at all, Sandy, I'm sure you don't take it that way. I'm just saying the way it is. The way this reads now, this is giving chief administrative officer the right to sign and on council's behalf, and I don't think that's the way it works. I think it needs to be in conjunction with, the mayor, or deputy mayor or whatever at the time, and the town clerk. Just ask that be reviewed.
Sure.
So,
The way it reads that is it allows, it transfers the responsibility of council to the CAO, and that's not the way this should work, I don't believe, at this point in time.
Right, and I'm
And
pretty
I don't even
sure,
think it's fair putting Sandy in that position.
I'm pretty sure all those agreements, when they come, those funding ones, that there's two names on it, mine is one,
Yes.
and usually it's the clerk is the other one.
Do we want to amend the motion
Sure.
that Mayor and Sandy can sign?
Would be me, it would be
Or
the
the mayor and
mayor
town
and
clerk.
and clerk.
Either or is fine.
Yeah.
Mayor and clerk.
Be mayor and town clerk.
Yeah.
Actually, I was once told by mayor, the only true employee of a town is the town clerk. The only one recognized in the Constitution, right?
It's the only required one.
Right.
Should know
Don't
as
require
town
one.
clerk, I don't have the signing authority when it comes to financial authorization at the bank, so I'm not sure.
Different.
I guess so.
Different.
All right.
Okay, so we
So
could,
are we amending the motion?
that's kind of a friendly amendment.
Absolutely.
It's just
Yeah.
adding the town clerk and,
Mayor.
I don't even know if you need to add me in there, because
Yeah.
it comes to me automatically, but.
so where, since I made this motion, where did this motion come from? With only having then Sandy, was that in a document or what have you, Carrie? Because I think that came from Carrie.
Those two motions were requested in a document that we got from Chief in advance of the meeting that we have tomorrow.
They're the ones that requested that.
Yeah.
They
so-
requested exactly what is in those two motions.
Okay.
So if it's not what's in those, and that's what they're requesting, I'm kind of concerned if we
No,
make an
We
amendment.
inserted the names, but everything else is as,
They didn't ask for chief administrative officer.
no,
No,
we
that's right.
inserted the names, is what I mean.
They want a contract signed on behalf of the town.
That's
Oh.
correct.
And the only signing authority on behalf of the town is.
Just to clarify, Kerry, did they specifically mention who?
No,
Okay, so we can change that.
that's right.
Okay. And we should do it for the first one, too.
Well, the first one is.
First one doesn't.
Oh, yeah, okay, the first one doesn't have
It's
no
just a
names on it. Good enough.
And that's fine with me, yes.
So
All right.
the
I got no issue
amendment
with
is the mayor and town clerk?
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Yeah, so since I made those I got a question here that I want, and I think I brought it up, so, before. With regards to this, it's saying that the town has the authority, but more, reference funding agreement to enter into and execute. This in no way says that we're, and I think we touched on it, responsible for that $9 million.
Council Power just spoke.
Yes, I just want to make sure, and that's referenced in there of asking that question, because I no way, shape, or form want to be seen as the town of Torbay responsible for that extra funding at this point in time, knowing that it can put us at a high debt ratio. And I said this at the last meeting as well, so I don't know where that leaves us, but there's a lot of, I guess, homework or what have you has to be done before we get that actually finalized, in my
And
opinion.
Kerry, if you can make a note, we can clarify that very question tomorrow with the chief
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming then with that tomorrow, and you're saying that a lot of people, I'm assuming then that David is
Yes,
in that
Oh, yes,
meeting as
yeah,
well?
yeah.
Okay.
he is.
I don't say they're going to care. They're going to want to know that the town is willing to go ahead and execute the agreement and move forward.
Well, we were
With
told,
the capacity saying that, yes, we can do it. If at some point down the road, I think the question should be, what happens if 2 months down we decide that our funding horizon doesn't allow us to do it, then what happens then?
Right.
Well, that's a big thing. Like, I'm really nervous about this, and I don't mind saying it, that where this could lead, because this in no way, because the town of Torbay cannot be strapped or held looking in a financial situation because of the impact that signing something at this amount can basically put on the town of Torbay in a go forward, in moving forward.
We're not gonna sign anything that,
Financial implication, in a big negative manner, I can see with regards to this. So not knowing what it is we don't know, I guess is what I'm trying to get
right,
at.
but what I'm saying is that we won't be signing anything until it comes back to council again for approval.
Yeah.
Signing to move forward is one thing, but signing to
Start the project.
actually start is something different.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Can I just clarification on that?
Yep.
My understanding is that we have the $9 million secured that we need to have to move forward. What I'm hearing though is there's council wondering if we would actually move forward with this.
I think the point is that the funding that the federal government gave us is 75% of the 100%.
Right.
In order to execute this agreement, the same as any way we do with the province or whatever, the town has to have our portion in place.
Secured.
Secured.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we're going to go to the bank and borrow it, but we have to show that we have the capacity to be able to move forward with this project if it goes forward,
Right.
in order to get the signed agreement to get it moved forward. All the time knowing, as the discussion we had with Minister Thompson last week, is that the town is going to be looking for additional funding from the federal government.
Do
And
we
we-
have a timeline that we have within the framework of this, Sandy, to have a decision made?
They'll find that out tomorrow.
This tomorrow.
Tomorrow's decision.
I can't comment on anything until tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I was just curious to understand
Yeah.
the parameters. I mean, there are people in this community that really want to see that second pond come online, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear and understand it.
Yeah.
Well, we have to come up with a way of coming up with that $9 million.
Right.
Funding's good till 2031, I think it says under the, under the.
Yeah.
We
thing
can't
as well,
fund
right?
it.
Okay. Infrastructure, Public Works, Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Mayor. Myself and Councillor Manning met with the director on June 3rd at the Infrastructure and Public Works Boardroom. We talked about the trails and got an update on those. The trail at Costly's Hill is gonna be the one to move forward next, and the ones over around Flora Drive to Indian Meal Line and Eagles Nest area, I know that the director is looking at that and will provide a follow-up with us on that. We also had a conversation about benches. There's a number of benches being installed along the trail system over the next couple of weeks. Committee discussed memorial plaques, and the department director noted that there are brass plaques that people can purchase at a cost of $450 to print it and installed. We don't know how many people would be interested in this, but we did talk about how nice it is for some of the benches that we do have. There are in-memory plaques that families have purchased for their loved ones. And it's a nice way to remember people. So we thought, we'd put it out there for people who are interested to contact us and see how that could work. I think we also mentioned that if somebody wanted to purchase a bench and have a conversation with the director about placing it, if that's possible. We don't know, of course, we had to consider land use, who owns the land, what options are available. But at the cost of individuals in the community, if this is something that they want to do, as we move forward with placing these benches, we thought it might be a nice thing to do, a nice thing to offer to families. So for consideration, there's no official policy around at this point. It's kind of a, hey, if you're interested, reach out, have a chat with the director and see what we can do. But if there's more interest, we can certainly come back and look at policy around it. But just an FYI on that part. We talked about the CCBF projects for 2025. New projects for 2025 are there. We talked about the EV feasibility study update. So just want to note, The funding that we have for this feasibility study came from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We're not using taxpayers' money to do this feasibility assessment. The director shared some information that he had learned about the use of electric vehicles in other municipalities and how, you know, the goal is to purchase these. Another municipality bought 3 or 5? 6 for $85,000 with the appropriate funding in place. There is funding for certain things like this that are available that towns can apply for, as the example director provided. So just to think about that, I mean, to be able to purchase 6 vehicles for $85,000, what an investment, and then you're not worried about having to pay the gas to keep that thing going, you know, it's charged. So this is an exploratory thing. There's no cost to the taxpayer right now in this feasibility study, and we'll have information in this study that we can bring back to the council to make informed decisions about fleet replacement or renewal. So I think this is amazing. And I want to thank our director, Carrie Murray, for making the application and getting the funding secured through the FCM. It's really, really great work. We had an update on the panel lift station at 216 Marine Drive. We talked about the water distribution model project, patch paving for 2025. The contract has been awarded, the budget's there. We got a couple of motions. So for curb, gutter, and sidewalk repairs project, the request for pricing was sent to 3 contractors. We received them. One was later withdrawn. Of the 2 remaining, we had Wares at $25,500 and Eric Taylor at $29,106.50 plus HST. So the motion is to award curb, gutter, and sidewalk repair project CR-2025-05-22 contract to Wares Construction in the amount of $25,500 plus HST. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comment?
Just got a question, I guess, with regards to, for repairs, that's not the sidewalk like last year where there were some deficiencies. This is something
No,
new.
so this
So
is,
where's this?
yeah, so the majority of these repairs are actually in the Anstey subdivision over off Torbay Road.
Okay, so that was from when they put that in?
When they put it in, yeah. So what happened was over the last probably, I'll say 15 years, there's been a few developments that went in with curb and gutter, no sidewalk, and there's been no repairs to those over those years. So now we're just getting to that point where we're starting to do some of those repairs.
Yeah, and there was $30,000 budgeted for this, so this is under budget. The amount of money will close, so it's
Okay.
within the budget for sure.
Any other question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
So for the supply and deliver of winter salt, tender went out. The information here is in the package. The motion to award the supply and delivery of winter salt project number 030-25PHM to A. Harvey and Company in the amount of $140.91 per metric ton. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? Brian, how's that price compared to last year?
In the first, sorry, in the first bullet there, it's $10.32 more.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Not 1,032.
Not 1,030, yeah. I just noticed that
Kind of
myself.
figured
This is why I had to ask.
Yeah. No
All
worries.
right. So it is gone up about $8.
It is, which we allotted for during budget presentation last year, but like I said, when we did budget presentation, everything's going up, and that's
Yep.
just a fact of life right now.
And there was only one bidder as well.
Yes, and we also, that went out through Transportation Infrastructure, provincial government, so they do the tendering process, and we just piggyback on them for, as a standing offer, I guess, bulk purchase, sorry.
Because when you're driving around, you don't see too many mountains of salt around other than West St. Harvey's Yard.
There's two on the Avalon, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. So for landscaping and sod hydro seeding repairs, a request for pricing was sent out to a number of, to 3 landscaping contractors with a deadline to respond. Only one responded with a price. After some discussion with public procurement and comparing past prices, it was determined that we would move forward. So the motion is to award landscaping and sod hydro seeding repairs contract to Kinsella Services in the amount of $28,250 plus HST. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, questions?
Just on the motions themselves, I know through corporate services and the recent audit by the Public Procurement Agency, the need to ensure that we have at least 3 quotes, or the test that the price seems reasonable. It seems that we went out on this one here and came up with what price seemed reasonable, and we have maintained the backup for that, so I'm assuming that's the way we went in this particular one.
Says 3 landscaping contractors, so Brian went out to 3.
It says only 1 of 3
One.
responded, but that's not what
Okay.
they had said when it came back, that you still need to try to get 3 overall.
Yeah, so.
Documentation.
Yeah, so documentation. So in this case, that's the reason I noted there that we put it out and there's a deadline to respond. So if people don't respond within that deadline, and we've got the backup that we put it out to them, that actually applies as the other 2 quotes as such. And like I say, we did, for that one in particular, we did check to the Public Procurement Agency just to verify it. So we got documentation on that as well. And the Director of Corporate Services is drilling us on that every day.
Thanks.
All right, okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. So the line painting project, the contract has been awarded to Tough Coat, and we'll start within the next 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the weather. The budget for this is $24,000. The CCBF projects from 2024 carry forward are noted here. The town office safety lights are installed. Well done, thank you very much. Abutments and culvert replacement in the Pine Ridge area. This project is 98% complete, and the same thing for Woodfines Lane and Morris Valley Road. Projects from 2024 carry forward are listed here as well. The information about them is provided. The sewer study project, wetlands. So the director noted that he met with Water Resources Management, Transportation Infrastructure and Environment, and Climate Change Canada to discuss the project back in May. He noted that he now has reviewed the draft wastewater feasibility RFP that was developed and reviewed municipal affairs. Plan to have the tender out in June. The RFP will look at all possible options for the town's wastewater requirements. The common generator project, that's been noted already. It's been awarded to Cal Technical Services. Stormwater mitigation, so the sites that are going to be worked on are Bridge Road, Wadeways Pond, the Gully, and Rattling Drive. There are notes there around that. The budget is provided. Water and wastewater treatment, these updates are much the same as what we would have had in the last meeting. I'm just flipping through here. As a part of the RFQ process, 3 proponents have been selected to move forward the project to move to the RFP stage. We are on schedule for technology testing in the spring and construction in the fall. Review of the RFP is now complete and back with WSP. Great Pond Water Study. So we have mentioned that just now, that the $26 million was approved for the project, and we're looking at the rest of the funding requirements. We just chatted about that. Wastewater testing is ongoing. The MEO reports, there was nothing to report. We did talk about the patrol time, so Deputy Mayor, you had mentioned that in the last meeting, and the director was going to go back and have a chat with the company about changing those times, considering kids being out of school and not having such early hours, and try to rework those. So, Brian, I don't know if you were able to speak with them, could provide an update on that?
Yeah, so I did reach out to them today on that, so I'm just waiting to hear back now on their.
Okay.
So when talking about that, touching on that, can we get the report, like the incidents and where, like we used to get?
Yeah, so we've been providing that in the past couple of packages. When
I
there's,
haven't seen
when
anything
there's
about
been
it.
incidents, we've noted that what incidents have occurred.
Okay, because I mean,
Right.
there's always incidents that,
Yeah, that's what I said, this time there was no incidents. That's
Yeah,
what we-
Last time round it was the field party, and I believe it was a dog.
A dog barking
A dog
and ATV somewhere.
Yeah. Spring, okay, so just keep going here. Again, the update here on traffic calming has been provided. Action tracking from the standing items, and our next committee meeting is gonna be June 17th, 2025. Any questions, please feel free.
Brian, just wondering, well, when the RFP, or has it gone out for the paving, for the road work for this year?
So the patch paving one is already started
Yeah.
over the weekend. But the actual road work one, which is under the CC, the gas tax one,
Yeah.
like I said, I've got the quotes back on that now, and of the 15 worst streets, it would total, I think it was just over $6 million, and we got 1.1 to spend. So between myself and the supervisor of infrastructure and public works, we narrowed it down to 5 streets plus a couple culverts that we gotta do with the main crossings. So at the next meeting now, we'll have there'll probably be a motion for the next meeting to, for the streets and the tender.
So they would have been ones that were revisited to see if they are worse than like last year, because that's one thing that we
Yeah.
always,
Yeah, like I said, we had the top
Oh,
25
sure.
worst, and so we went and visited all those, and we ranked them ourselves. Then we let the consultant do the same thing, and then we just took the, like I said, of the $6 million, we took the worst ones that we thought and came up to our 1.1 million, or $1 million type thing, so.
it would be nice to get them done before.
Yeah, so the plan is to have it on, actually, I just responded to an email back on, while we're first part of the meeting there, but the plan is to have tender out in late June.
Okay,
That's
perfect,
the
thanks.
plan. And one thing on the, and I'm surprised Councillor Pollard didn't ask the question, the RFP for the, for North Van is due to go out on Friday this week. That's what the schedule is.
Good, excellent.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. All right.
Just on the road construction, though, we would need to bring forward a motion as well for the approval by council to, for the gas tax for those list of roads. For the CIP, that would have to go through council before it would go to tender.
Okay. All right, Recreation and Community Services. Councilman
Okay, my turn. So we had our meeting on Wednesday, June the 4th. And myself, Councillor Appleby, and Director Martin certainly attending. So with the programming, the summer programs and events, we got an update on the summer programs and events, including Canada Day and the time in Torbay, both of which are being worked on every day and getting things clued up and in place, I guess. Summer Day Camp, as of June the 4th, there were still 11 spots in first week, which is a 4-day week, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And all other weeks are sold out, and training is on for the staff runs 23rd to the 27th. Killycooks Games. The registration is now closed, with Torbay having 189 youth registered, which apparently is 100 more than any other community. So the parents got in there and got all the information and the advertisements, and it's all been said and done there now. Facilities, the outdoor maintenance, well, certainly staff are busy ensuring outdoor fields are ready for the season. Softball has started. Tonight is my first game. Here I am.
Enjoy.
And the soccer pitch, they're working hard on that. Well, everything is under control, and they're getting the maintenance done and keeping up with it all. Certainly I'll go on there to say the director did provide us with an update on the repair of the soccer hut sewer line, which was completed, I think. Was that, Brian, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, was that done by you last year, your section?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we repaired that last week, actually.
Okay, last week, okay, perfect. Hoping it'll, I shouldn't say hoping, but they repaired it and see how it works out this year, see how the summer rolls along with that.
I could comment a little more on that. if
Thank
want.
you.
So the repair that we did was to the outside pipe, the one from the building to the septic tank itself, so there was a small sag in that one, so we got that one fixed. The other one, and I guess this is the reason you're saying your open works, is that the other one is
Yeah.
under the concrete floor in the basement, so that's gonna be a bigger repair if required. So when the facilities were under infrastructure public works, we put some high pressure toilets in there, which can push through the lines. So we're open now with the sag down to the end of the line, and those high pressure toilets, that they will take care of it. If not, my plan now is to dig up that floor through the winter with our own staff and repair those pipes as well. if it goes that way.
Thank you, Brian, thanks for that. History House, the director updated committee on budget for general maintenance, which has been referred to Corporate Services Committee for discussion and recommendation. So that's ongoing. Other Safe Action Community Plan. We had an update on various conversations that are being had with, say, the RNC as well as the high school. And the plan is to meet with high school to ensure there is a set plan in place for a youth committee come September. So that is some good discussion on the go, and it's been good. It's been an open line there between the director and the school principal and that. And so looking forward to that. Summer meeting schedule is there. That's all that's there right now, so I'll certainly put it to the floor for questions.
If I could jump in.
Yeah.
Just want to congratulate the director for the funds that have been applied for.
Yes.
The information is provided in the package here.
Yeah.
There's 131,551 in total funding that's been applied for. And the status right now, my understanding is 60,620 has been approved. So just a hats off. We talked about how Director Murray had secured the funding through FCM for the EV study. This goes to show the work that the Director of Recreation and Community Services, what's been happening here with some of these applications. So it's really nice to see this money being secured by the resources and brought into the town. So I just wanted to recognize that and say thank you. Also wanted to remind everyone to mark their calendars for the time in Torbay, because she's going up on August 1st. So looking forward to that. It's going to be great. And I think it's amazing that we had 100 more than any other community sign up for the Killer Coast. It's always an amazing event, and looking forward to seeing our kids have a great time. The last thing I'll note is that we did talk about summer day camps, and it's my understanding this is the first time in a very long time that the summer day camps have not sold out. So back to the budgeting discussion of costs and what the public can afford and what makes sense. We did have a conversation at committee, how people were saying that programs in other communities, they're going to other communities to do them because they cost less to do them there than what it does in our own community. So just reflecting that back to council, I think it's important that council's aware of that before the next budgeting cycle, that, for the first time, it hasn't sold out, that we are, getting this feedback, and it's nice to communicate it back to everyone at the table. So
Every week is sold out right though, except
Yeah.
for one.
yeah.
Yes.
But
It's 4
normally,
days.
Craig, what happens is that morning, everyone's there with their computer, like waiting for there were days up to, I believe, a week or so before the ones that did sell out sold out. And there's still some that aren't that last week. So
Right.
just, I think it's
Fair enough.
it's fair to bring it up, because, the conversation around, operating the Recreation Community Services department was tabled here not that long ago, and we talked about, well, if we're gonna use this money to offset that for whatever, but cost recovery is something that we need to be thinking about there. Recreation Community Services is not a for-profit entity. There is a $12 million facility that we cost shared, and I think was, I can't remember the exact numbers, but maybe 3 or 4 million of that we actually had to pay to the town. The rest of it was cost shared. I think it was 70-30, or however we had done that up at the time.
I think that the bill for Common was almost entirely us.
Yeah.
With multi-year capital works funding. We didn't apply for any funding for that building and get it.
My understanding, we had cost share agreements for that.
Would have been our multi-year capital works.
That's
Yeah,
why
cost
we,
shared in multiple ways.
that's why we
Yeah.
went with that pilot project to see if we could recoup some of the cost.
But I think it's important to bring it back to the chamber. We did discuss it at committee, that, there is a cost to providing these services in the community, and they can't
Absolutely.
always be cost recovered.
Nope.
So, we're not looking at people saying, hey, we're gonna cost recover, other things that we have, garbage collection, that kind of stuff,
Fair
right?
enough.
So
Yeah.
I think it's important that we consider that in future conversations.
I think the other part of that too, that I think gets lost probably sometimes, is our other towns around us are also building capacity.
Yep.
So this year in camp in Buggy Bay, Mill Cove, Otter Cove, they got 80 kids. And last year they might have only had 60. And in Flat Rock, they got 60, and last year they might have only had 50. So, you know, people are moving around and looking for the best deal that they can get for their kids. And, you know, it's all a big competition.
But I think, just last point on it, I think that the other thing is all the costs have been going up. You know, taxes have been going up, food, groceries, you know, cost of living has been going up. So I think, you know, there's supply and demand, the ratios and conversations of elasticity in the community. And I think it's just an indicator for consideration in future
Yep.
budget discussions around where that threshold is, right? And, you know, we want our people taking advantage of what's in the community, but some have said, you know, we're going other places because it's cheaper. So I just wanted to share. I think it's
Yeah.
important for communication and consideration.
And just follow up on that too, in terms of what the funding was requested for as well. We always ask for help from Government of Canada and the province for those recreation programs we do operate, and you notice that the request put in from Canada Summer Jobs was in the amount of $66,000. We only got approved 29, so they're cutting back significantly, which puts us, you know, essentially in the hole from a revenue perspective on that, some $36,000, and we have not adjusted our intake to reflect the $36,000. So, yeah, it is a big, a much bigger discussion, and as well, the whole discussion I think I brought forward when I talked about Jack Byrne is we're going to need to make a conscious decision on how much we contribute to minor, or what that looks like in terms of town's contribution overall, because there may come a time when we have to bring Jack Byrne into the fold as well for certain minor contributions.
Yep.
Just saying, I mean, there's a lot of minor
I
contributions.
I know,
There's
and,
a lot of people who use day camp, so I mean, it is a big commitment from the town perspective, and we certainly need to have that greater discussion to make sure that we treat everybody fairly.
I think like it's really in leading up to what I had talked about earlier with us, our borrowing capacity, when we look at all of the factors with funding, and for us not to be growing at the rate that probably we'd like to be, and even now with the issues with water. But I just wanted to go in there and say about the camp, my understanding of what you said, Rhonda, that it was sold out except for 1 week, and that was, and I think that the fact that it is sold out is saying that there were people who ordinarily in the past could not take advantage of our program for the summer. From what I've heard is that this year they were surprised that and delighted that they were able to register their children into it. So, and by the time that one comes up, that could very well. So it works both ways, and I think the fact that they have sold out, except for that 1 week, that's a good thing in itself.
And at this
So-
point, it may even be sold out now. And the fact remains is, this is a product that's always going to be needed,
Yeah,
right
Yeah.
around. There's always going to be a need for. And some years will go quicker. And like you said, and like Mayor said, people are moving around, trying different things too. So, you know,
Well,
there's
some
always going to
people-
be a need for it.
didn't think that they would be able to register because you had to be in there within that
Yes.
few minutes, and
Yeah.
did make other plans this year,
And-
not knowing that it was going to be at a slower pace. So that's all good in itself.
Yeah. Now, and on all that note, with the Common Sounder, and more especially with the weekend now with the East Coast Trail fundraiser, I want to throw out to our staff down there, like huge hats off, job well done. And their personality is, I think anyone that walked in there and, you know, you see a smile on their face and they're going around and, you know, like it's just, they show well for us, for the town. And without them, it wouldn't be done. So huge, huge hats off to them, and congratulations to each and every one that was down there that were working that day and did the jobs they were there to do.
All right, excellent. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
I'm
All
done,
right.
I'm done now.
Oh, I know you're done. I know you're done.
Thank you.
Liaison committees. Right, this one too, yes. Atlantic Mayor's Congress, I will be hitting there
We get next.
not next week, the week after, June 19th to the 21st in St. John, New Brunswick. And I'm really looking forward to it. We have a really good agenda. And so I'm going to compare this to FCM that I was just at. And to me, sometimes, and we do get an opportunity to speak to our counterparts in Atlantic Canada and our province on different projects that's going on. But I find that it's really geared sometimes towards the larger municipalities. I mean, in the big scheme of things, in the federal government point of view, St. John's is considered a rural municipality when you talk about population alone. And last year when we were in Summerside, the work that you're doing there around housing and developing and working with, in terms of what we were doing, they were ahead of us in terms of Housing Accelerator Fund type money. But I was talking to the mayor and we were talking about the struggles that we're having, talked about rezoning and different types of things. And I guess the conclusion that we both came to when we were talking to each other is that really what I'd like to be able to see in my neighborhood, on my street, is a place, and it's family oriented, where my parents can live, and I can live, and my kids can live. And there's housing there for all of our needs. And I think that as we go forward, we have to keep that in mind. I think that's one easy synopsis of way to put it. And that doesn't mean that you got a whole street full of row houses or whatever it is. It could mean that you got a single family dwelling and then you got a condo type place for older people, and then you got maybe a house with a basement apartment that people coming into the housing market can get into. So it was a really good discussion, and I'm sure that we're going to talk more about that when we go to St. John on the 19th, and I'll be sure to report back on what it is that I hear. Intergovernmental affairs, I really have too much to update there. I guess I already updated earlier about our meeting with Minister Thompson, and we still are pursuing a meeting with Mr. Pike and Minister Lovelace to talk about things on the go in the province. Jack Byrne Arena, Councillor Pollard.
Nothing further at this point in time, Your Worship, other than that I do stop by regularly, and it looks like we're pretty much on budget where we're going at the present time. I mean, the way that unfolds, if there's any last minute cancellations, and it's pretty sensitive overall, right? But
good.
And you see Thomas Amusements is down there at the present time, so it's not cold
Right.
weather.
Northeast Avalon Joint Council, Deputy Mayor.
We got our annual barbecue and social next Wednesday.
All right, I got an
Think you're
invite.
going, no?
I got an invite to that. See if I can go.
You haven't responded yet?
Yeah,
Come
but I
on,
think- Is that on the 18th?
next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think I might be
Wednesday or
flying.
Thursday?
No, I'm flying Thursday morning, yeah, so
19th,
hopefully I'll be there.
19th we're flying.
Ninth, yeah.
That's yeah,
There
Thursday.
you go.
Yeah, my time is like that. All right, RNC, we had an update earlier. I know that CAO is in constant
Yep.
contact with
Very
them,
regular contact now.
trying to get them to do more patrols. I've seen lots going around here lately, which is
And they have
really
been.
good.
They have been, yeah. I've
And
noticed them.
I've seen some reports of impounding some ATVs that have been illegally operating on the road, which
A
is
couple of
also
parents have been
good.
charged.
Right, and some parents charged, which is not good, but good. And, I think that it should be eye-opening for everybody. When you send your kids out on the road on a piece of equipment they're not supposed to be driving, you are responsible. If something happens, you are gonna, and it's clear now that you are gonna be held responsible. So please, 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 make sure you know what your kids are at order to. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department. I think we've got a motion here. Rhonda?
We do. The minutes are all there for anyone to, for your reading pleasure. As always, they are on top of everything. They're training, they're volunteers, the events out in the community. Couldn't ask for a better bunch of volunteer firefighters, for sure. But anyway, the motion is here because of the new Towns and Local Service District Act. We were asked to change from regulations to bylaws, and that's the only change throughout the document itself is the name of the act and the term bylaw. So resolve that the Town of Torbay to adopt the Town of Torbay Fire Prevention Bylaws, formerly the Fire Prevention Regulations, under the new Towns and Local Service Districts Act 2023, Section 8, dot 1A, as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, the minutes are certainly there of their last meeting, and in our go-around, thank you to each and every individual that volunteers there, and I'll do my condolences when we do our go-around.
Okay.
So ends my report.
All right, thank you. Urban Municipalities Committee. So we haven't met since symposium. The next meeting, as I indicated earlier in our correspondence, is going to be in Port Basque in August. And hopefully Deputy Mayor is going to be able to go.
That's the plan.
And that's another place when you're talking about housing. After they had that hurricane out there, a lot of their housing got flattened. And luckily for them, they are recipients along with us, and the town of Gander working with us on some housing plans, and then hopefully see what's going on out there. But I'm looking forward to seeing Mayor Button in particular. He's not going to be running in the next election. He's moving on, and you know, him and I have had a lot of discussions over the last number of years since they had that state of emergency, and how that plays on the mind and how difficult it is to deal with. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing my friend out there and talking about stuff happier than hurricanes and housing. All right, what else we got here? No notice of motion. New business. Councilor Manning.
Unfortunately, I'm going to start off with a condolence to Lori Fleming's family. Great loss to her family and friends, and even a bigger loss to the volunteer firefighters group, because Lori's been a part of that for an awfully long time and a very, very active member of it. So to everyone involved, it was a sudden, so condolences certainly from, I'm sure, around the table here, but more especially myself and Rick for sure. And just as on that same note, a thank you to, as I said a few minutes ago, each and every volunteer firefighter over there, and and their families, because without their families, they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing. So they are in high regard of everyone around, and I just needed at this point to point that out again. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, certainly condolences to Lori's family. I want to put a thanks out to the East Coast Trail Association and the fundraising efforts that went through on Saturday past. It was a great event, and as Robbie had mentioned there earlier, it was over $100,000, which is great, and the 50-50 draw, some $60,000.
I gotta check my
I want
tickets. I gotta check my tickets to see if I won.
Yeah. I want to just say that the special thank you to the volunteers. And one thing that stuck out to me, I don't know if the actual Brad Collett and the Folk Arts Council and the Gallo Cove Band were thanked in terms of their presentation while everyone was coming back from the walk. So I certainly want to reach out and say thank you to everybody for the time and effort it takes. And I think there were some 70+ volunteers. Robbie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I mean, they were everywhere, and they took their Saturday to stand up and watch people walk past them and direct them, or stand up in the booths by themselves and bat away the flies and you know, whatever else it took to go. But it went off really well, and it was great that it was a fundraiser. I mean, the value that that brings to the town of Torbay in terms of exposure and economic value is tremendous. And as much as we can do to try to latch on to that, then whatever we can do to certainly help out, we certainly will. I want to extend another congratulations, and that to the Rocky Isle Singers. And unfortunately, I couldn't join them in Ireland, but they did a post, and they have finished their festival in Limerick. And I must say, the last posting, I don't know if it's up yet, but they did send us, for those of us who were left behind on it, a 18-minute YouTube clip of their presentation in one of the churches in Ireland, in Limerick. And they were absolutely fantastic. And you know, so I just want to say congratulations to them. It was great. The whole organization up front, I mean, a lot of Torbay people associated in the band, and that's where Councillor Tapper is at the present time as well. But they were front and centre, and they actually got a standing ovation in the church from all the folks in Ireland who ever attended the Limerick International Festival. So I just want to say great job to them, and we should be proud as a town that, you know, they represent Newfoundland and Labrador, the only group from Newfoundland and Labrador, and as far as I know, the only group from Canada. So we're certainly well represented, and by all views, once it goes up on the public websites and that, I ask people to take a look at it and spend that 18 minutes, because it certainly is worth it. Not that I had anything to do with this particular part of it, but certainly I am a part of their back here, but they did an absolutely fantastic job. So my congratulations to them, and especially to the organising committee for the time and effort that it actually did take to get that arranged, and Michael and Jane's dedication to taking a bunch of fledgling non-professionals and make them a polished group of singers who can sing on the international stage. So that's just my words. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Epley.
Thank you, Mayor. So condolences to Kent and Laurie's family, and to Councillor Manning's point, you know, many, many years of volunteerism, and you know, the stuff the fire department do in this community, second to none. And when I first came here, coming to certain events and going down afterwards, you know, to the fire department, always a warm welcome, always front and center. I mean, Kent was up in Ottawa representing the Provincial Fire Association when I was up there representing the town for the FCM. So just heartfelt condolences to the family. Absolutely devastating loss. Also wanted to extend condolences to Mayor Gary Gazone's family. I posted about it today. Gary reminded me an awful lot of my dad. Dad spent 30 years on council, and Gary was getting pretty close to that too. And he had such a fierce love of his community in that island. It's no one's business. And I remember when I was first elected here, I wasn't here very long, and he invited myself and Tina Neary to go over and meet with them. They were dealing with drug issues and addiction issues at the time in the community. And over the years, we grew to be good friends, and I remember dropping off a bit of Mary Brown's to him when he was in Gandry and couldn't get it to get it, but he loved his community. He put a lot of heart and soul into the work that he did, and I just wanted to send condolences to his family and recognize everything that Gary did. Also wanted to thank Amy Murray and Melody King, who's sitting here in the room tonight. These ladies, they had a key role in organizing the prom for our graduates, for 2025 graduates. And the pictures that I saw online were second to none. The work that they put in, the tireless hours, the fundraising, the organizing, it really was something. So hats off to Amy and Mel and all the parents that were involved, but they were the ringleaders, so job well done. And I also wanted to thank John Callahan. I was just looking up here at the trackie. I noticed in the package that the mental health run has sold out, so congratulations to John and team. And I wanted to thank the sponsors who make this possible. Made to Move Physio, Therapy and Wellness here in Torbay, Kennedy Chiropractor here in Torbay, John Callahan, of course, with his realty work in Flat Rock, and District Drugs Farmer Choice here in Torbay. So just want to thank the sponsors, and looking forward to maybe my first run that I get to do with my daughter, official road race, so I'm in for that. Can't wait. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I didn't know that former Mayor Gazan had passed away.
No, you didn't hear? You hadn't heard that?
No. No, so, anyway, sorry to hear that on top of everything else, but again, without getting into it all, my condolences to Lori Fleming's family and her husband and daughters. Still couldn't believe that that had taken place so quickly. Big thank you to the staff, volunteers, and the teams in support of the East Coast Trail fundraiser. It was great to get out there to see, and as Councillor Pollard was talking about it, aren't you glad now that you participated?
Sure, great. Do it again tomorrow.
It was out there that day. Oh, who got me into this? But it was a great experience to get there, and I know Councillor Manning had a few choice words for me along the way too. But even myself, I was sore that night and the next day. But anyway, it was well worth it. And as well, a big congratulations to the choral group. Anyway. I know that Councillor Pollard and Marlene would have loved being there.
Yeah, I know.
So-
Yeah,
I know. That just kind of got me, but anyway, that being said, next time.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I got a big, long list. First of all, I have to say, and pass along, I was at the funeral on Saturday. Scrambled home from the East Coast Trail thing to get dressed up to go to the funeral, and Lori and I were friends for a long time. I remember her when I was 16, so that's kind of like almost 40 years ago. And you know, last time when we had the car for the mayor in the parade, she was driving me, and we were kind of joking that this is the second year in a row now that I had the car and I got out. It was a waste of time. So that was the last year we had it. And I've been walking the Santa Claus Parade ever since I became mayor, and I think first year Trina and I done it, and we've been doing it ever since. So it is, I didn't need that, but I really enjoyed being able to share that with her, and I talked to Kent about it, and you know, it's really sad. And over the last couple of years, I've had a lot of people around me close to my age passing away, and I'm wondering what the hell's going on, you know, in this world. I'm going to be 55 this summer, and holy moly, I don't know where the time went, but hopefully I'm going to get another 55 out of it. Never know. But and condolences to Gary Gazan's family. You know, it's I remember the first time I met Gary when we were at an M&L event, coming along with his cane, and he had just ended up getting elected the second time from the hospital bed. Everybody, if I'm in the hospital bed, please don't elect me. I'm finished.
Yeah, I know.
I want to say thank you to Newfoundland Labrador Youth Parliament. Today, I had the opportunity this afternoon to participate in a panel on municipal government. Myself and Mayor Breen from St. John's, and Kate Cadigan, the head of the Newfoundland Labrador Youth Parliament, and candidate for City of St. John's Council. And we spent about, I don't know, hour and a half, I suppose, with those young people talking about challenges of the town and running for council and all those things in particular that they're really interested in. And it's a lot of fun. It's my third year in a row going there, and I thank them for inviting me back. Obviously, they're not sick of listening to me yet, so they keep me coming. And when you get Danny Breen and I in a room, and we were talking one point about amalgamation, say a word, but anyway, and Kate was just there kind of sitting and listening to us, and I told her, I said, Kate, you might as well speak over the mayor, because if you get on St. John's Council, that's what you're going to have to do to try to get a word in edgewise. So we had a bit of fun too while we're at it, and it's nice to see young people interested in municipal government. And also congratulations to the Rocky Isle Singers. Ralph sent me an email last night, told me what Tony said about they had a standing ovation in their final performance, and they sent me along a picture to share on Facebook, and I did that. And I think that it does go a long way to show that it's important for us as the town, when we get the opportunity to support them, that group and other groups within our town and the East Coast Trail, and Tony and I were talking about this. I thought the whole bottom was coming out of her when we were going down Wine Gap in the bus, and the deputy mayor was saying, we're not supposed to be going down this bar. And then Tony was complaining about the distance. But anyway, we had a great walk and a great talk. It was a lot of fun. We walked, I thought we were getting up by Ron Ryan's farm.
Yes.
It was an hour later
Almost
by the
had a
time.
panic attack.
It was an hour later by the time we got to Ron Ryan's farm, but it was a lot of fun, and that was my first time participating in the East Coast Trailracer. So I'll be going next year again, I suppose, going wherever's to. It won't be at Beyond. But what are you laughing at? You were supposed to be there too, were you? Yeah, well, there you go. Don't be laughing. So it was a lot of fun, and I want to thank Julia and our staff for organizing that team and getting council together to go and participate in that. It was, it's nice to be able to get out and do that. And I know Councillor Pollard and I were talking about it as we were coming from somewhere, I don't know, up a bridge or whatever. And I said, this is a great investment in our town. It's a long-term investment, the East Coast Trail. It's going to draw people in, so I think it's very important. And lastly and finally, I want to thank our staff, the ones that are here and the ones that are not, for all the hard work that you've done over the last number of weeks since we met last. And I just want to thank you for the hard work that you do, and all the complaints that you put up with, and all the compliments that you get. I won't harp on that one too much longer. Okay, I am done, and thank you to the residents for coming to the meeting tonight and any night, raising issues and providing your feedback to us. We really appreciate it. It seems like we don't, but we really do. And now, does anybody have a question on something that was discussed on the agenda tonight? Okay,
No, I'm gonna.
get your name.
Sandra.
Sandra.
Everybody looks at me, you're here again. I'm here again because it's incredibly wonderful to be here, and just the joy and what goes on here is amazing. So you just need to know I have a Mainlander visiting, totally blown away by the crosswalks, and wants to go back to their town and say, why aren't we doing this? So really impressed. Quick question. Just a stupid little point, but the museum roles, I wonder if we need to change those to history interpreter and history educator, because I think we're not allowed to use museum. Is that true? We're not allowed to use museum in the title?
We can.
I thought there was a thing around funding where we had to call it the History House.
Right.
Right, so just a thought about if
We-
that's gonna have a problem or not.
I don't know that we've officially made that change yet.
We had the motion at the last
Yeah.
meeting, but I don't think.
Yeah, so just a consideration around the title change, just in case there's a conflict or an issue.
Right.
In terms of conflict, I just want to make sure I'm understanding conflict of interest. And I'm really sorry, because I know this is a pain. As a community member, I don't see it as a big issue. Now, I understand there's a particular point because of history and a context, but my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can still declare conflict of interest, but say that you can be impartial about that in a decision. And if you're found in conflict and you've said you can be impartial, then you run into an issue. But if you have a conflict of interest, you can then ask council to then say, do I have a conflict of interest? Council says no, and you're cleared. But my understanding is if you believe you can make an unbiased contribution and decision, then it shouldn't be a conflict of interest. You should be fine, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There are two aspects to conflict of interest. Number
Yep.
one is if your personal interest is affected. You don't have
Yes.
the ability to declare that it is or it isn't.
Right.
If there's some kind of a financial or monetary advantage, that's a conflict. The other part that I talked about earlier is if you have a personal relationship.
Right.
It's up to you as an individual councillor to determine whether you have that personal relationship and if it will affect your ability to make an impartial decision. Right? So you can't declare that it isn't and then be protected because of that. Because if an investigation finds that you were,
Then
you
you're,
are.
but unless the council says, no, we find
If
you're okay.
council votes on it, that's a completely different
Yeah.
issue altogether, and that's
Yeah.
section 6.5 that we
Because
have.
I think that,
Just before,
yeah.
just to add to what Sandy said.
Yeah.
It's not only the actual conflict, it's the appearance of conflict.
Absolutely,
Perceived conflict
yeah.
is very
Perceived
important.
conflict, right?
Yeah, if there's a perceived conflict. But, I mean, I guess the thing is, technically, everybody here is going to be in some conflict of interest. We live in a small community. And so I think to Councillor Pollard's point, there needs to be some kind of look at that, and even the financial piece. Like, I know it's written in law,
Yes.
but is there a way to kind of say, in a smaller community?
Well, in fact, we have 280 municipalities. Over half of them are less than 500 people.
Yeah.
So we are actually considered a large community. So,
Fair enough, but
Yeah.
everybody here will have some sort of a conflict of interest.
In every community, yes.
Yeah.
But that's a provincial government issue. That's the legislatures would have to be lobbied to change the legislation.
So if there is a financial benefit, you're out, you have a conflict of interest, you have to say it, and you're out, period.
Yes.
And then if it's a personal relationship, then you have to declare it, but say, I can still be unbiased, or you ask the
Well,
council.
your best bet is to ask your
Ask the
fellow
council,
councillors.
because then
That
you're
protects
covered.
you.
Yeah, okay,
And if you have any
thanks.
other questions on conflict, reach out.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear about that. The other thing that I really would like us to consider, and you mentioned this, Mayor Scott, is mixed building for mixed ages and development. And there's a really phenomenal building and development in Sudbury called Finlandia Koti. And it literally has mixed design for aging in place. We also know that having children around seniors is a very good thing for both seniors and children. So as you move forward with this would be an amazing place to develop a center where people of all ages can be together and people can age in place. We're very close to the city if there are additional needs or resources around healthcare. But please consider that more fully, because I think this would be a dream destination for being able to age in place and be connected in multi-generational setting.
Right, and that was one thing that in my discussion with the mayor of Summerside that really stuck out to me, was that to envision a neighborhood or a street where all three generations of your family could live and have the housing types that they need. So, you know, it's one way to look at it going forward. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Brian? No? Good. All right. Where am I here? So, our next public council meeting schedule will take place on July 7th, 2025, 6:30 right here in the town hall. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried, thank you very much. All right.
I gotta have a quick, do you have a minute for a quick chat?
I forgot.
before you go? Do you have a minute?